what we've looked at with clients is understanding the profile of the content and then matching the approach to fit the profile of the content. So there'll be some content that is perhaps lower risk, lower profile, more repetitive. And that's where you can lean into more AI-led approaches, for example, the automated post-editing. And then there may be content that's much higher profile, much more emotive, much more creative, has much more significance for brand building and, brand positioning. There, we would advise that you're leveraging and working more closely with our linguists, who are more involved in crafting that content.
Welcome to the Impact Files podcast. I'm your host, Ned Wells, and I'm really pleased you're here. Welcome to the Impact Files podcast. And this week, Ruth and I are really pleased to be joined by Sophie Howe, CEO at Comtec Translations.
Welcome to the podcast, Sophie. Really great to have you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on the podcast.
So, Sophie, I'd love to start with an introduction to yourself, to Comtec Translations, and the work that you do.
Okay, so Comtec Translations, we provide localization and translation services. So we cover over 200 languages, and we work with a global network of linguists, all based all over the world. We localize a whole range of different types of content, marketing, learning, through to much more technical content, financial content. And we work with clients across a whole range of different industries, covering both B2B and B2C. And we also partner and work very closely with agencies, both marketing, creative agencies and learning agencies as well.
And could you just describe what you mean by localization for any of our listeners who aren't sure what that is?
So when we talk about localization, it's the true experience. So it's taking it further than just translating the content into another language. It's about providing an experience that really resonates and connects with the audience. So it's taking into consideration much more broadly beyond just the words, thinking about the cultural context as well. So it's a much broader definition that really takes that cultural consideration into the picture as well.
Interesting. Okay. And when we talked off air a week or two ago, you were telling me that Comtec is a family business. Is that right?
So yes, it's family founded business. So Comtec first started in 1981. It was founded by my mum, Dr. Isabella Moore. She consequently sold the business, and then my husband and I bought it back again. So we have been running the business now since 2007. So it is still definitely a family affair. But my husband and I run the business.
And what sort of scale is the business?
So we have as I said, we have our kind of worldwide network of linguists, truly global network. And then we have our team of project managers and localization engineers as well. And we service clients. We work with clients in the UK and overseas. But the client base, our client base is very broad.
And can you give us a sense of the scale in terms of numbers of employees or revenues or anything that you're happy to share?
Yes, of course. So our internal team, we have 16 project managers internally, and then we have, as I said, about 4,000 linguists working worldwide, and we're constantly expanding that network.
4,000 linguists. That's a huge number.
Yes, well, we have that number of linguists within our network because of the range of languages that we work in,
Sure,
and
sure.
also the range of subject areas that we work in. So where we
Right.
really focus is on making sure that we select the right linguist, the right team of linguists for each of our clients. Those linguists should have only translating into their mother tongue, and
Right.
they will be specializing in specific industries, specific areas, and have that kind of in-depth understanding of the technical terminology, the terminology for that particular industry, and to be fully immersed in the client brand. And that's part of what really creates that fully localized experience.
I see. I see. That's fascinating. Ruth, over to you.
Thanks, Ned. Thanks, Sophie, for that overview. Coming from an agency background, it's really interesting to hear how you approach it. So, could you tell us a little bit about your business case for sustainability? Obviously, a lot of people might think, oh, translation, that's not exactly, you know, super linked to sustainability. So, it'd be really interesting to hear about your approach, your business case, how you work with your team, things like when it comes to your team's contributions, their skills, your sort of fair wages, and just the long term view that you have on sort of being kind to people and planet.
So, I mean, we were the first translation company to be B Corp certified. We started our B Corp certification. Now it will be, I think, almost 5 years, and it was something that I actually had looked at a while before then, because I felt like it really resonated with how we work and our approach
Mm.
to doing business. So, as I said, our linguist community is huge, and it is core to what we do. Um, they bring such amazing skills, linguistic expertise, but also, as I said, that really invaluable cultural understanding, which really
Mhm.
kind of creates the quality that we produce. And we've always invested hugely in that network. So for us, the when you talk about the business case for us, B Corp, we felt gave us a brilliant framework for really focusing on developing that community and developing those relationships, but also very much our internal team. So um, we have always had a very strong culture, very strong values, very much invested in the development of the team and giving the team the opportunity to learn and grow. So, um, and then also when it comes to our customers, we have had some of our customers for over 20 years, or longer actually. Um, and we've just always, for us, the customer is core, that it is, we are there to really understand their needs and to make sure that we are delivering the best possible service. So the B Corp framework for us brought all that together in a brilliant way. And for us, it is all about sustainability. This is all about creating a business model that can grow and evolve and support all the key stakeholders within it: the linguists, the team internally, our customers, um, and for us, it was. Yes, as I said, it was something that it's always been core, but the B Corp values and framework just fitted so nicely into what we were doing.
That's so nice to hear that it was like such an organic journey for you, and well
Yes.
done on being the first B Corp translation company. That's an amazing achievement. Just following up on that quickly, you mentioned your clients are central and your team is central. Have you got any sort of insight as to how do you feel that the B Corp certification has really helped you in terms of winning clients and in terms of retention of your team as well and attracting that network of freelancers? Do you feel that having that B logo on everything that you do has helped in any way?
Yes, it certainly has, but I think, yes, it definitely has helped, and I think um, we have won, we have won business through the B Corp community, and I think, I wouldn't say that the 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 B Corp accreditation. I think that's not enough. Like we have it, but we live it. So and we talk about it, and we talk about what we do, and when you look at our linguist community, um, we've talked about the B Corp certification, and they're very much aware and that we have it, but it's what we're doing with them and how we're developing that community. We're doing as part of that accreditation, as opposed to that's not what's driving it. It's
Yeah.
and I think. But with our customers, I think there's a lot more awareness of the B Corp accreditation. Definitely, I think with our linguists, it's more that they know who we are and we see what we're doing, and we have told them that we are a B Corp. And I think the environmental aspect, and I'm sure we'll come on to that later on. But for example, how we've approached our use of AI. Where when we've talked with our linguists about our use of AI, we have talked about that in the context of our B Corp accreditation, which has kind of helped to add weight and helped to add kind of meaning around what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it certainly, when my agency were looking for a translation company, we knew that we would prefer to work with another B Corp. So I can imagine that's the case for quite a few agencies
Yes,
as well.
definitely, yes. And I mean, we actively do that too. So we're keen to, obviously, very much so, to work with partners, fellow B Corp agencies as well.
The thought occurs to me, Sophie, that with your enormous network of translators, who I'm going to guess are located all around the world, the B Corp certification isn't necessarily hugely well known in all of the locations where they'll be. I mean, I know there are lots in England, so if you've got translators in England, then they may be aware of it. But it's interesting how you were saying that your sort of B Corp values are intrinsic to what you're doing, and it's that the translators will see more than necessarily the sort of the B Corp logo
Yeah.
kind of having any meaning for them.
Yes, I think that is. I mean, I think the B Corp movement is growing, and it's brilliant to see how much it's grown in the last, since we first um, uh, received the accreditation. But yes, it's not. I wouldn't say it's massively well known within the linguist community.
Mm.
So that's what. But we have taken every opportunity to raise that awareness and make sure that our linguists do know
Mm.
about it. But yes, I wouldn't have said that the awareness is that it is that well known across that community.
So I wanted to come on to, I guess, some more tangible examples of what you're doing, in the sense of the sort of the balance between, as a commercial organization, the need to generate near-term revenues for all the reasons that we know about, but also with an eye on that long-term sustainability in terms of social and environmental kind of factors. And it would be lovely to hear any examples of processes, procedures, skills, or even people you've put in place to drive the sort of the balance between those two things.
So yes, when we in our kind of industry, when we're talking about AI and technology, we have developed a number of key services. One we call AI-led machine translation with automated post editing, which automates the post editing process, so leverages AI to do that. And then we have, for example, machine translation with post editing that's completed by the linguist, and then we have workflows, for example, where it is completely linguist led, and there's very minimal or no input from machine translation or AI.
Mm.
When we've been developing those services, how we've developed the approach that we've used to develop those services is very much around working with the linguists. So for example, when we look at automated post-editing, machine translation with automated post-editing, we work very closely with our linguists to introduce very comprehensive glossaries, style guides, and to develop comprehensive prompts, for example, that run that automated post-editing. But the linguist is very much core. Our linguist community, our linguists are very core to that service. And again, as I said, with the linguist post-editing, machine translation, and with the fully linguist-led workflows. But the way we've approached everything we're doing is very much about the linguists. The linguist is at the core of those services. They're working very closely with us. The technology is there, and we're developing that technology. But we are developing it with that kind of human linguistic input in everything we do, and training and supporting our linguists to be able to work with us and to support us and to be a core part of what we do. So everything in all the developments that we've made particularly in the last 18 months, we have from the start been very mindful about how we work with our linguists to do that. So they are on the journey with us.
And if you could just explain to our listeners what the post-editing process is, that would be helpful.
So the automated post-editing is where we are automating that process using AI. So we use a combination of neural machine translation, LLM-led machine translation, and then we leverage the style guides and glossaries and prompts to then to automate the post-editing of that content. So that content, for example, we will work with a client, for example, and they will have specific glossaries, specific style guides. We are training the engines to post-edit their content aligned to their specific style guides and their glossaries. So this is how we are bringing together the linguistic expertise with the technology to make sure that content is fully customized to the client. But it's done in an automated process, but it's fully customized to the client.
I think I've got that. I think I'm not perhaps quite clear enough on what post-editing is, rather than how you're automating it. What is the actual
The post-editing
thing?
The post-editing is editing the content aligned to the specific glossaries and style guides that we've created. Right. So if you're, for example, translating, localizing website content, for example, might be a database of products, we can use machine translation with automated post-editing to localize that content into another language, and we can feed that with the client's glossaries and style guides, so that the AI then post-edits that content aligned with those specific style guides and glossaries.
I see. And I can see that there are all sorts of interesting things that come out of that. I'm thinking about the sort of, I imagine there are organizations in your sector that are going fully into AI without involving their translators and localization experts as much, which I guess is going to compromise on quality, but will certainly be less expensive.
Yes, exactly. There is a spectrum. And I think that's something that we've focused on, because AI has opened up huge opportunities to be able to localize at scale. There's no doubt. And, we want to take advantage of those opportunities for our clients, to support them to be able to localize as cost effectively and as fast as they possibly can. But what we've looked at with clients is understanding the profile of the content and then matching the approach to fit the profile of the content. So there'll be some content that is perhaps lower risk, lower profile, more repetitive. And that's where you can lean into more AI-led approaches, for example, the automated post-editing. And then there may be content that's much higher profile, much more emotive, much more creative, much has much more significance for brand building and brand positioning, there we would advise that you're leveraging and working more closely with our linguists, who
Yeah.
are more involved in crafting and crafting that content. So it's being able to offer a kind of different types of service, um, ranging from the more AI led to the more with more linguist input, depending on the profile of your content.
And you must have been through an absolutely extraordinary journey in the last, 18 months, 2 years, where AI has completely dominated your industry, and the complexity of how do we stay loyal to our huge community of freelancers and pay them a fair wage whilst taking advantage of all the benefits that AI gives you. That must have been quite a journey to have been on.
Yes, yes, and I think we have we have developed solutions at an amazing speed, which I think is testament to the team here.
Mm,
We have a very hard-working tech team here, led by my husband, Dan Howe, and then we have Mark Jones and Dan Jacob, as well, who work very close. They all work very closely to get together, and
mm.
have worked very hard to develop these solutions. But yes, it has been a journey, and I think we have we have always said that and believe very strongly in bringing those two together. We have the technology, and we've always been very tech focused as a company,
Mm.
and always leverage the translation technology available and maximized that, and developed our own solutions as well. But we've always believed in that marriage between the technology and the linguistic, and our linguists in the process.
So that's the social side of your sustainability efforts. In terms of the environmental side and the cost, or the environmental cost of AI, is that a journey that you've started on?
Yes, it is. It is, and we have completed detailed audits of the tools and technology that we use,
Mm,
and working together, we're working with an external consultant to understand how what steps we can be taking to manage that impact in more detail. But I think our focus has been very much on working closely with our linguist community.
mm, mm,
And I
mm.
think going forward, we are looking to do more to consider more the environmental impact. But I would say that for the last 18 months, we have very much focused on how we can support our linguist community. We understand
Yeah.
the changes that they've been through and the impact it has had on them. And I think our focus very much is on understanding how we can support them and how we can bring them on this journey.
And it feels to me like that has been the sort of commercial imperative for you for the last year and a half, 2
It
years.
has. Yeah. Yes, it has. And I think the reality is, as a small business, um, I think that is the challenge, is that, we are a small business that has gone through working in an industry that's gone through an incredible amount of change.
Mm,
We have an amazingly loyal team and a fantastic community of linguists, and I think our focus has been very much on how do we navigate this, and
mm,
how do we respond, how do we evolve, how do we um, move into this new phase.
mm, mm.
And so I think our focus has been very much on working with our key stakeholders and
Yeah.
our linguists, our team internally, and our customers, to really understand how to respond to the changes that we've been going through.
And to navigate this extraordinary new kind
Yes,
of situation you find yourselves in.
exactly.
Ruth, over to you.
Yeah, so in terms of, you mentioned some initiatives, Sophie, that you've been doing, and some of the challenges that you've overcome. Could you maybe share any other learnings you've had in terms of things that maybe didn't go so well when you've tried to implement them in the business when it comes to the balance of purpose and profit?
Well, I think when we first sort of, for example, we have developed a tool which we call Pronto, which is our self-service machine translation tool, which is basically, I talked earlier about the machine translation with automated post editing. It basically allows our customers to access that service on a self-service basis. So they log into Pronto, they upload their content. It's all fully customized to them with style guides and glossaries and so on. And then they then process the content, and then they have the option to upgrade for more linguist input. I think what we developed that actually at quite a lightning speed, and I think we were learning. We were having to really, there wasn't much time for reflection. We needed to respond. The market had changed dramatically, and we knew we were able to develop this tool, and we knew that it would provide it had a huge potential. I think, I think the challenge has been having the time to sort of take stock and think about how does this impact all the different stakeholders to our business. And I do think actually the B Corp framework really helped that, because I think we had done the work to really understand who are the key stakeholders, how to manage that. And I think that, and so I think in kind of launching Pronto, it did give us that framework to be able to kind of reflect. But I think what I would say is that it would, perhaps with hindsight, we would have been nice to have a bit more time. But I think it's very rarely the case. I think you have to jump on it, respond quickly. But I think we did do a lot of work with our linguists. We ran webinars. We did a survey with all of our linguist community to understand how they were feeling, collect their feedback. We generated a comprehensive report. We spoke at various linguist community events. But I think there's more that we can be doing, and there's more that we want to do.
That's so interesting. It sounds to me like you almost have an extra role, which is almost this like sort of consultancy role as a sort of key point between your clients and your network of translators in terms of helping them understand what's going on in the wider world, especially when it comes to AI. And I had another question on that actually, which was just you mentioned you've done that sort of stakeholder exercise with your freelancers, but when it comes to the market and your clients, do they have much awareness? Because obviously I can imagine they come to you and they say like, can you do this with AI and can you do it now? Do they have much understanding on the ethical and sustainability implications when it comes to AI? Or is that not something you've really come across yet?
No, I think they do. I think I think there is an understanding, and I think there is a real um keenness
Mm.
to have that to have the linguist input in this process.
Yeah.
I think the notion, the kind of this understanding of kind of looking at your different types of content and understanding the profile, that seems to have really resonated with clients.
Mm.
And so, but I think there is an appreciation that there's a linguist input in all the services we offer, and that gives them the reassurance. And also I think there is an appreciation, this is a human process. This is a human process alongside with using AI, but there is still very much a human input in this. So I think there is an ethical understanding as well. Yes.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
And you mentioned when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, Sophie, about the launch of a tool called Clara. And what was your experience with that?
So, so we have Pronto, which is a self-service machine translation tool, and then we also have Clara, which is designed to support clients to generate content from a brief. So that and works very well for short form content. So Pronto is there as a self-service tool for translating content that's already been written, and Clara is a tool to help to create content from a brief as opposed to working from existing written content. So would work very well for product descriptions, for example, or social media content and so on, where, for example, you may some of our clients have their local team. So we may work with the central marketing team, and they may have local sales and marketing teams, and they because we train that with all the star guides and glossaries for our
Right.
clients, that they can have the reassurance that the local teams are using a kind of approved terminology, approved star guides, and so on when they're generating content in the target language.
Okay, fantastic. I think the overwhelming sort of impression you're giving is of an industry that's been turned upside down by AI, and navigating that with the values that you hold so dearly has obviously been incredibly hard.
Yes, it has. I think there was there there was, for what we see, is that there, as when AI first emerged, I think it brought it brought huge opportunities,
Mm,
and understand, and I think companies, brands were like obviously keen to maximize those opportunities when it comes to localization. But what we're seeing now is that understanding, as I said already, it's just that understanding of the fact that the AI
mm,
is brilliant, and it has huge potential, and it allows you to localize, to create content at huge scale. But it is crucial to marry that with that kind of cultural understanding, linguistic
yeah,
understanding,
yeah,
and to
yeah.
use it very strategically and to think carefully about where it fits. And I think that's this offering that we have been able to develop and evolve in the last kind of 12 to
Mm,
18
mm,
months.
mm, mm.
And it aligns, I think it aligns very well with what we believe and what's core to our business, and what's kept, made us exist for so long and kept our clients for so long
Sure.
is our linguists and the service we provide to our customers.
Excellent. I think the next section about media, comms, and marketing, I think we've really covered most of that already, actually. So, unless there's anything in particular that you wanted to draw out there, I was going to ask Ruth to go on to the sort of what's happening in the next year or so.
I mean, the only thing I was going to say is that for us, is transparency is very important. So, I think in how we talk about what we do, we are transparent about how we do it,
Mhm.
and we're open about the tools that we're using, and how we work with our linguists and how we work with the tech. And one of the key things we do for our clients is show them the different type, what the quality or what the content looks like with the different types of approach. So you can see what a more AI led approach looks like versus a more human, um where it's a fully human led workflow. So we are, for us, what's very important is that level of transparency.
That's really interesting, Sophie, because when you just a minute ago started talking about transparency, my first sort of thoughts that came to mind was how that can feel risky, um, because what you might be being transparent about things that people couldn't understand or for whatever reason, but actually for what you're saying of the transparency in terms of giving clients or potential clients options and showing them what A could look like, or B could look like, or C could look like. Yes, that's transparent, but that's also a very sort of authentic and nice way of showing them what they could do next.
Yes. Yeah, and that's key. I think it's just
Mm.
explaining and understanding. There will be types of content that actually work really well with automated post editing, that you can get to a decent standard. But there is still a lot of difference in language. So some languages work very well with AI, and some languages just don't work at all. And the amount of rework means there's just no point in trying to use AI. So there is we offer that kind of knowledge and experience as well for our clients.
That's fascinating. What are the languages that work less well, or what would be an example of a language that works less well with
Well,
AI?
I mean, it's thinking about the languages with the less resources, because they're obviously the major Western European languages work very well, but then when you get to languages which are less spoken, where there are less
Right.
resources available, that's where the quality starts to drop off. But the list of languages that work well with MT is growing. I think in the last 12-18 months, when we first launched Pronto, we were talking about 20 languages. Now we're talking about 30-35 languages that work
Wow.
well. So the speed at which things are developing is really quite amazing.
And I guess,
Fantastic.
sorry, Ned, I was going to say on that note, the speed of developments, providing that there are no massive shockwaves, which I guess there could be over the next 12 months. What are your plans for Comtec, and do you have anything exciting coming up? You mentioned that you'd been a B Corp for about 5 years. So am I right in thinking that you might have a recertification coming up at some point as well?
Yes, we have. So we have gone through another recertification
Mm.
now. So we must be longer than 5. I'm just trying to
Mm,
think now, because we've just gone through. We went through a recertification last year, so
okay.
we've got our certification now for 3 years. So I think we've done 3. I think we've done 3 and 2, so that we've
Mm.
got our longer certification now. Um, in terms of plans for the year ahead, I think um, is continually improving um, our kind of our offering, and I think um, we're seeing now a lot more um, interest in and appreciation of the importance of that kind of cultural understanding. So
Mm.
we have developed, for example, playbooks to help companies moving into a new market to think about the kind of cultural aspects that may impact the brand in that market. So I think we are continually developing our solutions, leveraging all the technology, and making sure we stay on top of that, and we broaden our language offerings, for example, around Pronto. And then I think also um, continuing to offer our kind of consultancy services around technology, and then also around the cultural aspects also of moving into a new market, operating in a new market.
That's great. I mean, it certainly sounds like you're definitely, you're much more of a trusted partner to your clients rather than anything transactional. That just comes across so clearly. So yeah, great to hear.
Yeah. No, we're very much. We're very much want to support and advise, and I think um and we understand that with our clients, they trust us. They don't speak all those languages.
Mhm.
They trust us to give them that expertise, and yeah, we work with all our brilliant linguists to be able to do that.
So, if I was interested to hear you saying that there's a renewed interest in the sort of cultural understanding of the work you're doing, has there been a kind of a trigger for that? My sort of not being in your sector, I would assume that that's something that's in the background continually, but it sounds that there has been renewed interest. I'm wondering if that's been sparked by something.
Well, I think I mean, I think like you said, it's constant. There's always
Mm.
that interest in getting the balance between global and local. But I do think that um, it's the question is how do we leverage all this amazing technology to be
Yeah.
able to do it at scale? But the key things, how do we stay very local and locally relevant, and how can we leverage the AI to do that? So that's where it is a combination of localizing existing content, and producing content directly for that market. And that's something that we also do. So we do a lot of copywriting and content creations for specific markets. So we are seeing an understanding of making sure you get that balance between global and local, which is always there, but it comes and goes. And I think at the moment it's very, very pertinent.
Right. I wanted to start to wrap up by asking you where you think your sector will be in the longer term, maybe 10 years' time.
Well, I think that we've seen, very much in the last 6 months, you can see how important that, the tech is there, but it's that cultural understanding, linguistic understanding, and I don't think that's going to go away. And I think you'll see further advancements in the technology, but the role of the linguist, the role of the expert in that process will just will continue to be very, very important, and will be refined, but it will continue to be very important. I don't think we're not going away. We're very much here. We add a huge amount of value, and that's the feedback that we get continually from our clients. Is that understanding and knowledge needs to work alongside the AI. It's not a replacement.
So a vote for AI, but it has to have the human element in there to
Yes.
make it
Yes.
effective.
Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, Sophie, one piece of advice for businesses that are pursuing a sort of sustainability and financial objectives alongside each other.
I would say dialogue is really important. So I would say understanding who your key stakeholders are and speaking with them, and so that for us, it's that dialogue that we have with our linguists, understanding where they were, especially when we ran the survey 12 months ago, to understand how they were feeling, what they were afraid of, what they wanted to see. And I think having that also with our customers, understanding what was important to them, and then bringing those together. So I think it's about actually really talking to all the key stakeholders for your business, understanding what's important to them, and from that you can drive a strategy and an approach which is sustainable.
How are you doing that, communicating with your translators? I mean, you've got 4,000 of them.
So with all the linguists we have all over the world, I mean, we have that huge network. They are, they're not live all the time. So I think it's more that we have to have that network to cover the sheer number of languages. But we have linguist lunches, we have webinars, we have a linguist board that meets every 3 months. So we are constantly communicating with them and constantly checking in to understand what's changing and what's important to them. So it's using lots of different tools, and also our team are working with them every day. And there's a constant dialogue. It's not the way we place our projects. It's in conversation with our linguists. It's very much a understanding. Is this a good fit? Does this match your experience? And then once we get going with the project, we're constantly working with them to deliver for the client.
Sure. Fascinating. That was wonderful. That was so interesting. Thank you so much, Sophie.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Final thing is, how can people find out more about you and about Comtec Translations?
So, you go to our website, so www.comtectranslations.co.uk. There is also on our website, what we've launched is our tool called the localisation scorecard, which we've talked so much about content categorization and picking the right approach. That scorecard helps you to work out what type of how to profile your content and what approach would work well for your content, and then also whether the languages that you need it for work well with machine translation. So
that sounds fascinating. We shall certainly include a link to that in the show notes.
Brilliant.
Sophie, thanks so much. Lovely to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you very much, Reese.
Thanks, Sophie.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, and share it with your colleagues. For more about the podcast, about us, our marketing services, and our wider support for purpose-led organisations, please visit our website at theimpactfiles.co.uk.